others guessing, gives you room to pivot, and enhances your leverage in leadership, relationships, or rivalries. 3. Turn silence into a power move. Most people fear silence, they rush to fill it. That's when they reveal insecurities, expose strategies, or offer concessions. You, on the other hand, must become comfortable in the stillness. In negotiation, let silence stretch after you speak. In conflict, observe before reacting. In leadership, make firm decisions, then stop talking. The power of the strategic whisper. Machiavellian silence doesn't mean never speaking. It means never wasting words. It means only speaking when your words deliver more value than your silence. Those whom they reveal little and watch the world overreact. They understand that in an age of noise, selective disclosure is rare and powerful. A few well-placed words, delivered after constant chatter. But here's the twist. The most dangerous players often don't posture or announce, they maneuver silently. They're not busy broadcasting ambition. They're busy winning. While others are still talking about strategy, they've already executed theirs. They don't need to say, "I'm powerful." Their silence says it for them. Machiavelli's timeless insight into human behavior offers a radical strategy for our noisy age: speak less. Watch more. Move in silence. And let your results speak louder than you ever could. Silence is the final word of power. In a world obsessed with attention, noise, and constant self-expression, the one who can hold their tongue holds the advantage. Machiavelli's lesson is clear: true power doesn't shout, it listens, waits, and strikes with precision. Strategic silence isn't about being passive. It's about being undeniably in control. It protects your intentions, conceals your weaknesses, and multiplies your influence. While others rush to be heard, you become the one worth listening to, not because you speak often, but because when you do, it matters. So, if you want to win, truly win, don't just learn to speak better. Learn when not to speak at all. Master the pause. Weaponize the quiet. Let silence do what words never could. That's how power moves. Quietly. Decisively. Unforgettably. The final word is silence, a 2,000-word conclusion on power, restraint, and influence. In the age of information overload and compulsive self-expression, silence has become a revolutionary act. Every day we are bombarded by voices, shouting for attention, begging for validation, drowning in opinion. We live in an environment where people speak not to achieve clarity, but to fill space. They share not to reveal insight, but to project identity. They communicate, but they do not connect. They express, but they rarely influence. And yet, amid all the noise, one archetype rises quietly above the rest: the Machiavellian strategist. This individual understands what most people have forgotten, that communication is not about volume. It's about control. About timing. About leveraging words like weapons, and silence like armor. About choosing not just what to say, but when to say nothing at all. At the heart of this strategy lies an unsettling truth: those who speak less often control more. 1. The illusion of expression. Modern culture equates speaking with strength. We're told to speak our truth, voice our opinions, and turn. But this impulse, while empowering in the right context, can become self-defeating when unfiltered. Machiavellian silence is not repression, it's refinement. It's not about muzzling your voice, but weaponizing it. It's the understanding that constant expression often serves the ego more than the outcome. Most people speak to feel better. The strategist speaks to do better. Words are costly. They lock you into positions. They reveal your emotional state, your insecurities, your expectations. Every word you give away becomes a potential liability in negotiation, conflict, or competition. What's left unsaid, however, becomes your leverage. 2. Silence as presence, not absence. To the untrained, silence looks like passivity. But to the disciplined mind, silence is a position of strength. When you withhold your words, you create tension. People lean in. They begin to guess, analyze, and interpret. You become unpredictable. This unpredictability is not just mystique, it is influence. People fear what they do not understand. And they respect what they cannot read. Think of a chess master. They don't rush their moves. They wait. They watch. They let their opponent speak, through their positioning, through their impatience, and then they strike. Machiavellian silence functions the same way. It says, I'm not here to react to your tempo. I'm here to set mine. 3. Emotional mastery through restraint. To remain silent in a charged moment is to master yourself. Most people talk too much because they feel too much. Their words are reactions, not responses. They speak out of frustration, fear, anxiety, or insecurity. They give away their position, emotionally and strategically, because they don't know how to sit in discomfort. The Machiavellian figure is different. They feel just as much, perhaps more. But they don't broadcast their inner world. They observe it. They refine it. And then they choose whether it serves a purpose to reveal it, or not. This discipline of silence is one of the highest forms of emotional control. To restrain the impulse to speak when provoked, when flattered, or when tested, is to own your reality rather than react to someone else's. This is not repression. It's sovereignty. 4. The economics of power: speak less, gain more. In the marketplace of attention, scarcity drives value. The more available something is, the less we value it. The same is true for speech. If you're always talking, always explaining, always responding, you dilute your influence. But if you speak rarely, with precision, and only when necessary, your words hit harder. Consider how much power resides in the person who can stay silent during a heated conversation. Who can walk away without needing the last word. Who doesn't explain, justify, or plead, but simply moves on. That person is not being weak. They are being untouchable. Machiavelli understood that influence is not about dominance. It's about the perception of control. And silence creates that perception more effectively than any boast, rant, or argument ever could. People chase what retreats. They listen to what speaks sparingly. They respect what doesn't need their validation. 5. The strategic use of silence in leadership and life. In leadership, silence is not just restraint, it's a signal. When a leader speaks too much, they betray uncertainty. They explain because they fear misunderstanding. They over-justify because they crave loyalty. But the most powerful leaders say little, and what they say, they mean. Their silence signals confidence, finality, presence. In relationships, the same dynamic applies. Constant reassurance, emotional explanation, or verbal excess often undermines the very bond one seeks to build. Silence, when used wisely, can command attention, test loyalty, and provoke introspection in the other person. This is not genetic calibration. Sometimes your silence teaches more than your words ever could. The silence often loses. Why? Because silence creates pressure. It causes the other party to fill the void, usually with concessions or revelations they hadn't planned to offer. If you can become comfortable in those moments, if you can hold the silence while others squirm, you win more often without saying more. 6. The discipline behind the mask. But let's not be naive. Strategic silence is not easy. It requires knowing when to speak and when to withhold. It requires resisting the urge to prove a point, defend yourself, or outman's internal stillness, patience, and a long-game mindset. And it comes with a cost: you will be misunderstood. People will project onto you. They will call you mysterious, aloof, arrogant, or cold. That is the price of being unreadable in a world addicted to exposure. But that is also your advantage. Because while others seek validation, you seek outcomes. While they reveal themselves to gain favor, you withhold to preserve freedom. While they talk about winning, you win, quietly. 7. Silence as a psychological weapon. There's a psychological edge to silence that cannot be overstated. When you refuse to react, others begin to doubt themselves. They question their assumptions, their confidence, even their own emotions. Your stillness forces them into confrontation with their own inner world. This is the invisible terrain, not through dominance, but through disorientation. Not through aggression, but through absence. In this way, it reflects others back to themselves. It forces them to reveal who they are, while you remain unexposed. The most dangerous people in any room aren't the loudest. They are the ones who watch, wait, and act only when the odds are in their favor. 8. From presence to legacy. Eventually, those who master the art of silence build not just influence, but presence. There's something unforgettable about a person who doesn't overshare. Who doesn't respond to every attention. Who walks into a room and commands it, not with words, but with energy. Their presence is a force. It's built from restraint, patience, and mystery. Their power is not felt in their statements, but in the tension they leave behind after speaking. Over time, that presence becomes their legacy. Not because they were constantly heard, but because they were rarely ignored. 9. The modern world's greatest blind spot. In the digital age, where the loudest often appear to lead, this strategy seems almost counterintuitive. But that's precisely why it works. People are so addicted to expression that they've lost the ability to observe. So desperate to be heard that they forget how to listen. Provocation that they become easy to read, easy to manipulate, easy to calm amid chaos, silent amid shouting, is not weak. They are the exception. And that exception controls the game. Because in a world of noise, silence becomes signal. In a world of abundance, restraint becomes power. In a world of constant reaction, stillness becomes dominance. 10. Final reflection, the shadow crown of the quiet. Silence is not the absence of power. It is the mask of it. It protects your energy. It shields your strategy. It keeps others guessing. And most importantly, it keeps you in control of your time, your emotions, and your path. Yes, it will make you uncomfortable at first. Yes, it will confuse people. But eventually, it will separate you. It will elevate you. And it will teach you the most important lesson of all. Real power doesn't announce itself. It arrives uninvited, speaks minimally, and leaves an impact that echoes longer than words ever could. So, the next time you feel the urge to explain, react, or prove your worth, don't. Pause. Breathe. Say nothing. Let your silence do what your words never could. Let your actions speak in a language no one can ignore. And let the world discover, too late, perhaps, that the one who said the least was the one who moved the most. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You just need to be deliberate. And sometimes, the most deliberate thing you can do is simply say nothing at all. The most dangerous voice in the room is the one that barely speaks. The Machiavellian communicator does not speak to express themselves, they speak to control outcomes. They remain silent not out of fear or insecurity, but out of focused strategy. Their silence isn't passive, it's deliberate, calculated, and precise. Practical power, the discipline of strategic silence. Adopting Machiavelli's principles doesn't mean you never speak, it means you speak with discipline and direction. 1. Master information asymmetry. In any interaction, power belongs to the one who knows more and reveals less. Ask sharp questions. Listen for subtext. Watch body language. Before revealing your position, gather intelligence. In business, conflict, or negotiation, what you don't say often gives you the upper hand. 2. Use strategic ambiguity. Clarity is powerful, but premature clarity can trap you. When the situation is still unfolding, maintain flexibility. Leave space in your words. This keeps others guessing, gives you room to pivot, and enhances your leverage in leadership, relationships, or rivalries. 3. Turn silence into a power move. They rush to fill it. That's when they reveal insecurities, expose strategies, or offer concessions. You, on the other hand, must become comfortable in the stillness. In negotiation, let silence stretch after you speak. In conflict, observe before reacting. In leadership, make firm decisions, then stop talking. The power of the strategic whisper. Machiavellian silence doesn't mean never speaking. It means never wasting words. It means only speaking when your words deliver more value than your silence. Those who master this art use contrast. They reveal little and watch the world overreact. They understand that in an age of noise, selective disclosure is rare and powerful. A few well-placed words, delivered after long observation, hit harder than constant chatter. But here's the twist. The most dangerous players often go unnoticed. They don't posture or announce, they maneuver silently. They're not busy broadcasting ambition. They're busy winning. While others are still talking about strategy, they've already executed theirs. They don't need to say, "I'm powerful." Their silence says it for them. Machiavelli's timeless insight into human behavior offers a radical strategy for our noisy age: speak less. Watch more. Move in silence. And let your results speak louder than you ever could. Silence is the final word of power. In a world obsessed with attention, noise, and constant self-expression, the one who can hold their tongue holds the advantage. Machiavelli's lesson is clear: true power doesn't shout, it listens, waits, and strikes with precision. Strategic silence isn't about being passive. It's about being undeniably in control. It protects your intentions, conceals your weaknesses, and multiplies your influence. While others rush to be heard, you become the one worth listening to, not because you speak often, but because when you do, it matters. So, if you want to win, truly win, learn when not to speak at all. Master the pause. Weaponize the quiet. Let silence do what words never could. That's how power moves. Quietly. Decisively. Unforgettably. The final word is silence. Ever felt a cold whisper in your gut, a primal unease despite a warm smile? They shake your hand, call you brother, cheer your wins, until their own success feels threatened. Then, the knife appears, subtly, invisibly. We call it paranoia. Machiavelli called it wisdom. The dangerous myth of goodness. We're fed a comforting lie: people are inherently good, friendships are unbreakable, loyalty breeds loyalty. But that's not how the ruthless dance of power works. It's not how human nature truly operates. Niccolò Machiavelli, a figure both feared and misunderstood, dared to strip away the polite veneer and reveal an uncomfortable truth: kindness is often a tactic, loyalty is a fleeting rental, and in the grand game of power, no one is truly your friend. The economy of relationships. Look around you. Every bond, every alliance, built on selfless affection. It's built on leverage, price, it's quiet calculation. People align with you because you serve a purpose in their world: emotional, financial, social, psychological. The instant shatters, and you're left staring at the raw, unvarnished truth. This isn't cynicism, it's liberation. Once you grasp this, deeply, intrinsically, you stop filling your heart for those who wouldn't offer a band-aid. You stop investing in fantasies and start playing the game like a strategist, not a pawn. You might feel isolated, but that loneliness is clarity. And in that searing clarity, a new kind of power awakens, one that needs no external validation, sees through every mask, and walks its path with unshakable vision. If you've ever felt the searing sting of betrayal, wondered why people turn glacial the moment you ascend, or questioned the very nature of your closest ties, then this isn't just for you. It's about you. Because what Machiavelli knew, and what so few dare to confront, is that the genesis of true power begins with one terrifying, yet liberating, realization: no one is your friend. And that, surprise, loyalty, the transactional truth. We're spoon-fed romantic notions of loyalty. Good people are loyal, real friends stick around through thick. Machiavelli, however, saw a different reality. He understood that loyalty is never unconditional, it's transactional, temporary, or benefit. He cautioned rulers against trusting the affection of their subjects or the allegiance of their allies. Why? Because people are loyal to their needs, not to you. And when those needs shift, so too will their devotion. The promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. This isn't just a maxim for monarchs. It applies to every relationship you've ever held dear. Recall those you trusted implicitly, friends sworn to be there forever, colleagues who lauded your work when you were equals, lovers who once couldn't conceive of life without you. How many vanished when your circumstances changed? How many fell silent when you needed them most? We construct elaborate narratives to soften this blow. They're just busy. They're going through something. They didn't mean to hurt me. But the truth rarely offers such gentle excuses. People gravitate towards what benefits them. And when your presence no longer fuels their ego, status, or security, they drift away. Machiavelli didn't despise humanity, he simply refused to sugarcoat its reality. He observed the court of Florence not as a bastion of honor, but as a masquerade where nobles showered each other with public praise while secretly plotting each other's downfall. And here's the unsettling part. The more powerful you become, the more smiles you attract, and the more hidden daggers. This dynamic hasn't changed in the modern world. Loyalty often wears the disguise of friendship. But look closer, does this person stand with you because they believe in your essence, or because they derive safety, status, or support from your approval? If your influence evaporated tomorrow, would their phone still ring? This isn't meant to embitter you. Once you recognize loyalty as a strategy, not an inherent virtue, you cease to be manipulated by it. You stop mistaking convenience for true character. And you begin to observe people with radically different eyes. You stop asking, why did they abandon me, and instead, you ask, why was I? The bedrock of Machiavellian self-defense, detached from the illusion that people are loyal to you. They are loyal to their perception of you, their needs, their aspirations, their self-interest. And when that illusion no longer serves them, your bond will, inevitably, dissolve. The path forward, strategic detachment. So, what action do you take? You cease trading your loyalty for validation. You stop sacrificing yourself for those who view you merely as an asset. You build alliances, not fragile attachments. You lead with value, not desperate dependence. Machiavelli understood that a wise individual moves through life like a grandmaster on a chessboard, not emotionally reactive, but relentlessly strategic. He doesn't hate the opposing pieces, he simply comprehends their function. And so should you. This doesn't demand the abandonment of love, friendship, or community. It demands the removal of the blindfold, seeing people as they truly are, not as you desperately wish them to be. Because in a world teeming with manipulation, the rarest form of power isn't deception. It's clarity. Betrayal, human nature under pressure. Have you noticed how quickly allegiances shift in the crucible of crisis? A misspoken word, a misinterpreted post, a subtle dip in status, and suddenly, those who once lauded you are gone, silent, or, chillingly, arrayed against you. This isn't necessarily betrayal. This is human nature under pressure. Machiavelli famously advised rulers to maintain power not through love, but through calculated fear. Why? Because he knew fear is infinitely more predictable than affection. Fear, unlike fleeting adoration, often remains loyal even when love has withered and died. In stark terms, people are more reliable when they need something from you than when they like you. It's a harsh truth. But it's profoundly liberating. Once you internalize this, you stop bleeding for fair-weather companions, explaining yourself to those determined to misunderstand you. Most importantly, you stop being shocked when loyalty evaporates the instant you cease to be advantageous. Move like a tactician, kind, but never naive, open, but never blind, generous, but never exploitable. This is the first law of Machiavellian power: don't depend on loyalty. Understand its inherent expiration date. No one is your friend, not in the idealized way you might hope. But once you accept this, truly, deeply accept it, you gain the most formidable advantage of all: independence from illusion. Kindness, a double-edged sword. We're raised to believe kindness is an intrinsic virtue, a universal good, that being gentle, accommodating, and agreeable will open every door and earn every ounce of respect. But Machiavelli knew better. He understood that kindness, when not wielded strategically, is frequently mistaken. He recognized that in the theater of power, niceness isn't admired, it's exploited. This isn't a stark warning: if your goodness isn't forged with strength, it becomes your leash. We've all witnessed this narrative unfold. The person who constantly bends backward to please others, always agreeable, perpetually saying yes. They believe they're embodying nobility, earning adoration. But beneath the surface, a different dynamic takes hold. People begin to perceive them as harmless, predictable, replaceable. They start to expect compliance. They relentlessly test boundaries. They scoff at silence. And the harder they try to please, the more invisible they become. Machiavelli would identify this as a fatal flaw, because it willingly surrenders your power to those who care least about your well-being. When you lead with niceness, hoping it will protect you, you become a tool. A stepping stone. A phantom people forget once they've extracted what they needed. But when you lead with presence, a quiet, unshakable sense of inner strength, you command attention. Respect. Even a healthy dose of fear. Machiavelli argued that it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Not because fear is inherently virtuous, but because fear establishes distance. It breeds respect. It creates impenetrable boundaries. Love, on the other hand, often invites exploitation, especially in a world where most individuals think in terms of advantage, not abstract virtue. And here's the chilling truth: people frequently misinterpret kindness as naivety. They perceive softness as submission. Delicate balance of empathy with authority. They will inevitably walk over you, and then resent you when you finally stand your ground. So, how do you break free from? You must learn to master what Machiavelli termed appearance, to be kind when it serves your purpose, cold when it shields you, generous when it fortifies your position, and ruthless when your very survival demands it. This isn't about living a disingenuous life. It's about recognizing that in a world teeming with opportunists, absolute transparency is a dangerous liability. The person who bears their soul to everyone ends up betrayed. The person who exposes their entire strategy gets sabotaged. The person who pleads for approval never truly earns it. Niceness without strategy is a lamb wandering into a wolf's den. Why does kindness so often attract abuse? Because many individuals are constantly testing the boundaries of every person they encounter, consciously or subconsciously. They push. They prod. They press, relentlessly searching for where the line is drawn. And if you never draw that line, they conclude that no such boundary exists. They won't vocalize it, but internally, the thought forms: this person won't stop me. This person fears confrontation. I can take more. And they will. Not because they are inherently evil, but because people respond to what you tolerate. If you permit someone to interrupt you, they will continue. If you perpetually give more than you receive, they will come to expect it. You are not seen as generous, you are seen as weak. Niceness becomes a self-imposed cage. Machiavelli's strategic kindness. So, what would Machiavelli advise? He would tell you to cherish your kindness, but to weaponize it. Let it be a strategy, not an automatic default. Offer your generosity only to those who genuinely respect the value of your gift. Speak softly, but understand when to deploy silence as a potent form of power. Assist others, but never at the expense of your own dignity. And most importantly, be unpredictable. Machiavelli believed unpredictability was one of the most powerful forms of protection. When people cannot anticipate your response, when they are uncertain whether your smile conceals steel, they tread carefully. They respect your person, but if your response is always passivized, a puppet whose strings they can effortlessly manipulate. There's a dangerous myth that equates being feared with being evil, that elusive. But that is a fabrication spun by those who dread losing control over you. True power resides in embodying both, a person capable of profound kindness, yet unafraid to inspire awe and even fear. A person who leads with compassion but never bows for scraps. A person who smiles, but not for the purpose of being liked. This is how you break free from the niceness trap, not by becoming cruel, but by becoming sovereign. So remember this. Your kindness should be a gift, not an obligation. Your empathy should be chosen, not expected. And your approval should be earned, never assumed. Because when kindness is inextricably paired with strength, it becomes divine. But when kindness is all you are, it becomes your prison. The inevitability of betrayal. Betrayal rarely originates from strangers. It emerges from those you once shared laughter with, confided in, and fiercely protected. And that, chillingly, is what makes it so utterly devastating. It doesn't feel like an overt attack. It feels like a slow, insidious poison, subtly administered behind a familiar smile. Machiavelli grasped a fundamental truth that most people stubbornly refuse to accept: loyalty is not eternal. It is conditional, fragile, and perpetual. That your friends, your partners, even your most trusted confidants, could one day act against your interests is profoundly unsettling. But it is also the undeniable genesis of wisdom. Because once you comprehend the chilling psychology of betrayal, you cease expecting unconditional loyalty, and you begin constructing an unbreakable strategy. Let's dissect this further. Human beings are inherently opportunistic. We are fundamentally wired to seek comfort, security, validation, and power, and we will frequently switch allegiances the moment an alternative path offers a greater reward. We cleverly cloak this tendency in morality, in lofty ideals, in noble justifications. But at its core, the mechanism is simple: people pursue advantage. And advantage, by its very nature, is fluid. One day, you are the dominant player on the board, the gravitational center around which others orbit. The next, a new force emerges, more useful, more valuable, more threatening. And in that precise moment, loyalty subtly, instinctively, shifts. That friend who once sang your praises begins to whisper behind your back. That ally who swore eternal support stops returning your calls. That lover who once uttered "forever" starts to withdraw, their gaze wandering to someone else. They don't betray you because you failed them. They betray you because they perceive a greater gain from someone else. Shared history. It becomes utterly irrelevant. In the brutal arena of power, history is merely a memory, and people will ruthlessly rewrite it in a heartbeat if it serves their immediate survival. Machiavelli's chilling admonition: never trust in affection alone. He advised rulers, and by extension, anyone who wields influence, to assume that betrayal is an ever-present possibility. Not to succumb to paranoia, but to remain perpetually prepared. The gravest error you can commit is to presume loyalty is a permanent fixture. Because here's the unvarnished truth. When your power wanes, so too does their